Hey everyone, ready for chapter number 8 of How the Mind Works, written by Christian D. Larson back in 1912. So, chapter 8, the within and the without. It has been stated that the average person is 9/10 environment. That is, 9/10 of his thoughts, ideas, desires, and motives are suggested by environment, or created in the likeness of what he has come in contact with in the outer life. And this is largely true. He is therefore almost wholly patterned after the things that make up his surroundings, and instead of being himself is a reflection of his circumstances. That such a person can master himself and control his destiny is out of the question, because we cannot control external things so long as we are almost entirely in the control of those things. When we analyze this phase of human life, we find that the multitudes float with the stream like dead logs, therefore can never go where they wish nor accomplish what they wish. However, no life is complete until we have things the way we like. That is, until we can consciously change ourselves and our environments according to those higher views of life that we are constantly receiving as we promote our progress. For this reason, we must find some way that will lead us out from the control of environment if we wish to live a complete life in a life really worth living. To proceed, we find that the law to be anything in the without that is permitted to impress its likeness upon the mind will influence character, conduct, thought, action, and living. And when you give such impressions full right of way, they will actually control your life, the reason for which has been explained in the preceding chapters. To avoid this influence from environment, therefore, we must refuse to receive impressions from without that we do not desire. But since the greater part of these impressions come unconsciously, the question will be how to avoid them. This question, however, is answered through the understanding of the law of receptivity. It is natural for the mind to receive impressions from the without. It is also necessary that it is what the senses are for. But it is not natural to absorb through the senses all sorts of impressions from everything with which we may come in contact. When such impressions are absorbed without discrimination and without our cognizance of the fact, we have a mental state called unconscious receptivity, and this state is produced by a weak character. So unconscious receptivity, we are always receptive to things, and unconscious receptivity is basically meaning you are receptive to the things that you are not aware of, and they are affecting you in a way that you are not aware of. So it is important and very imperative that we go over this and understand it to the T, because this is explaining how ajna is working, your mind is working. And basically what that whole paragraph says, if you're not in control of your mind, then who knows what is. Your environment, other things, there's a lot of key elements that go into play with it. But if you can be yourself and stand up for who you are, regardless of what the environment may suggest, regardless of what circumstances may happen to you, then you have a healthy foundation. Okay, but here we must remember that a weak character is not necessarily a bad character, because when you are very weak, you may not even be able to do mischief. To be really bad, you must be strong, because a bad character is a strong mind misdirected, while a weak character is a negative sort of goodness, a goodness that means well but is wholly incompetent. What is called character is that quality of mind that discriminates, selects, chooses, and holds in possession what has been selected. Character therefore has two functions. The one selects the right and the other holds the mind in the right. When character is absent or so completely negative that it is almost wholly inactive, it is not possible for the mind to select the right or to hold the right. Such a mind will absorb nearly everything that environment may suggest, and will therefore be a reflection of the present sphere of existence. Most minds have some character, and therefore have a few ideas and motives of their own. They accordingly eliminate some of the undesirable impressions that may try to gain entrance to the mind. But we are all aware of the fact that the average person is entirely too much under the influence of those things that surround him. The majority are affected to a large extent by surroundings, climatic conditions, and atmospheres in general, though it is a sign of weakness to be influenced in this manner. The coming and going of events and the opinions of others also play a very large part in molding the thoughts of most minds, but no mind should be modified by such influences unless he accepts those modifications by personal choice. Every mind should be able to be himself or herself, no matter what happens or fails to happen, and every mind should be able to think on his or her own thoughts regardless of anyone's opinion on the subject. Like I was saying in the last video, you are your own individual, you are your own person. Stand up for who you are as a person. Don't let the outside determine who you are, because then you wouldn't be you, and that's not what you want. You want to be you, because the world needs you to be you. Okay. This, however, requires a strong character. That is, the ability to make your own selections and the power to stand by that which you have selected. The attitude of receptivity has frequently been looked up as a weakness, but it is the lack of character in this connection that constitutes the weakness. Receptivity in itself is indispensable. There are a number of illustrations to prove this fact. The mind that is not receptive to the finer things in life, such as music, art, love, the beauties of nature, and so on, has not begun to live. Without the attitude of receptivity, however, no one can respond to anything. But here we must remember that in becoming receptive, we should train ourselves to respond only to such things as we consciously select. The most receptive mind has the greatest opportunities for enjoyment as well as for the increase of wisdom. But this receptivity must be guided, and character alone can do this. Receptivity must be employed consciously only, and unconscious receptivity must be entirely avoided. The mind must be able to use consciously that to which it wishes to respond, and must also be able to respond perfectly when the choice is made. When such an attainment is secured, you will always be yourself. You will never be influenced by anything but your own thought, and you will get many times as much enjoyment out of those things of life that you are able to appreciate. And the path to such an attainment is a strong, highly developed character. Continuing the study of man, the man's relations to his surroundings, we made a metaphysical law of extreme importance, and it may be stated as follows. Man's welfare depends upon what he does in the within, and how he relates himself to the without. The related to everything in life, and what is more, it is absolutely necessary. When true harmony is absent, full expression is prevented. And since it is bringing forth of the best alone that can give us the best, we find that the full expression of what is in us, becomes indispensable to our highest welfare. What we do in the within makes us what we are, and how we are related to the without determines what we are to receive from the world. When we do much in the within, we become much, and the more we can accomplish and attain or create in our sphere of action. When we are properly related to the world, we receive the very best from the world. That is, the best that we can appreciate and use now. We can all understand, therefore, why man's welfare depends upon what he does in the within, and how he relates himself to the without. However, to promote constructive action in the within, we must learn to apply the law of growth in every part of the human mind, and we find that all growth and development is preceded by the expansion of consciousness. To expand consciousness, therefore, becomes one of the great essentials in everything that may pertain to perfect advancement and higher welfare. Mental growth involves 3 stages: unfoldment, development, and cultivation. and in each stage, new fields of action are appropriated. Whenever anything in life of an individual is enlarged, a new field of activity has been entered. Unfoldment is the bringing out into a larger sphere that which previously occupied a smaller sphere. Development is the multiplying of modes of action, and cultivation is the perfecting of those channels or vehicles through which the various modes of action may find expression. The term development is usually employed to cover the entire process because it merges with unfoldment on the subjective side and with cultivation on the objective side. Therefore, when we use by itself, the entire process of growth is implied. So basically, unfoldment is the bringing out of what is in you. Unfoldment is the bringing out of what's inside of you. And cultivation is the applying of what is inside of you. So basically, development is the median in between those two scales. So development, how he was saying, covers the whole unfoldment process into the cultivation process, because you must unfold it within yourself and make it into a cultivation on the outside of yourself. You're cultivating that character, and that in turn is developing the whole system in that entire circle. Since development in any sphere cannot take place until consciousness has been expanded in that sphere, no process or system of development is complete until provided with practical methods for promoting such expansion. This being true, we see how inadequate modern systems of training must be, and accordingly it is not difficult to find numerous reasons why the race is not more highly developed. However, any process of development will expand consciousness in a measure, provided the desire for expansion is held in mind when such a process is employed. But this desire must be present and must be very strong. And for those of you that don't know what consciousness is a self-aware unit of energy. And that is what we are. Everything is energy. Everything is created by energy. You learn it in physics if you haven't taken physics. Energy is what the body uses to move. Energy is what the mind uses for its mental processes. Energy is who you are as an individual residing in this soul, this body. The energy you use is how you create in the external, and you have 7 centers of energy, 7 energy centers within your body, the 7 chakra points, which you get from the 7 planets in our solar system. Everything is connected, and it's amazing when you take the time to learn all this stuff. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read this sentence and then finish with that paragraph, okay? Reread this sentence. This being true, we see how inadequate modern systems of training must be, and accordingly it is not difficult to find numerous reasons why the race is not more highly developed. However, any process of development will expand consciousness in a measure, provided the desire for expansion is held in the mind when such a process is employed. But this desire must be present and must be very strong. Like those of you who are watching this video, you had the desire to learn more, you had the desire to advance, which is why it was brought to you, which is why you ran into it. And that is how the law of attraction works. You were curious about it, you wanted to know, and you were searching for it, and it was placed in front of you. To try to feel the life of all life, or rather to place mind in conscious contact with all existence, will also promote the same purpose to a degree, because in this attitude the mind actually transcends present limitations. In fact, all limitations are eliminated in this way, and the mind is set free to enter new regions whenever it may desire. This method, however, must be employed with wisdom and perfect self-control. There are many minds who have recently set themselves free from all limitations of consciousness through the exercise of universal sympathy, but not all have gained anything thereby. A few have been afraid to venture beyond what they already felt to be substantial, while others have roamed here and there and everywhere on the borderline of the unknown, wasting their energies in search of pastures green. They have had no definite aim except to find the new, and therefore have accomplished nothing. For the fact is that to find the new is not all that is necessary. When we find the new, we must stop there a while and get out of it what it may contain. Kind of like what he was going over in the last chapter, how individuals will move from one thing to the next because they see a successful person working and it's working for them, but they also fail to realize that that successful person has been doing that specific thing for many, many, many years. They stuck with it. They found it and they kept going with it. And that is essentially what we're trying to go over, because you want to stick with that one thing that you find. You don't want to just keep jumping from one thing to the next, because you are constantly building and then you stop and start to build something else, and you're pretty much starting all over. As a rule, the imagination runs wild after limitations of consciousness have been removed, and only fragmentary impressions are gained whenever a slight pause for observation may be taken in the midst of these new fields. The result is ideas and conclusions that have no foundation whatever, or opinions that seem plausible to the one that produced them, but wholly devoid of truth, in fact, mere freaks of aimless creative power. And it is a well-known fact that such creations are entirely too numerous in the mental world at the present time. Imagination is a splendid servant, but as a master it will invariably lead you into chaos. Now I love how he says that. Imagination is a splendid servant. Imagination is your tool used for creation. The imagination is ajna, one of ajna's functions. I know I said it in another video, but say for the fact the chair I'm sitting in had to first exist in somebody's imagination. They imagined that chair, they've seen it before it even existed, and they took the initiative to make that chair a visible reality. This camera that I'm recording this video on had to first exist in somebody's imagination, and then they took the time to make it a physical reality. And in the expansion of consciousness, imagination is like value that it's just something in your imagination. But you know what? Your